was George? The Vice President says he never saw, or can't remember, or did not comprehend the intelligence report on General Noriega's involvement in the cocaine cartel. So when that report was being prepared and discussed, I think it's fair to ask, where was George? The Vice President claims he cares about the elderly, but evidently he didn't know or wasn't there when the administration tried repeatedly to slash Social Security and Medicare. So when those decisions were being made, I think it's fair to ask, where was George? And the Vice President, who now speaks fervently of civil rights, apparently wasn't around or didn't quite hear when the administration was planning to weaken voting rights, give tax breaks to segregated schools, and veto the Civil Rights Restoration Act. So when all those assaults were being mounted, I think it's fair to ask, where was George? In fact, the Vice President, where was George? Where was George? Where? Where was? We all know the answer to all these questions. George Bush is the man who is never there. And he won't be there after the clock strikes noon on January 20th, 1989. His only major economic proposal is a wonderfully Republican idea to cut the capital gains tax for the rich. That may be good for his friends who clip coupons, but the hard-working taxpayers of this country cannot afford to be clipped again by another round of voodoo economics. I wonder who coined that phrase. America needs more shelters for the homeless, not more tax shelters for the privileged. America needs more affordable housing for the middle class, not more tax breaks for the upper class. America needs to bring the disabled into the mainstream and not relegate whole groups of our people to the backwaters of our economy. The next administration must do more than provide comfort for the comfortable, and the next president must offer more than a pale imitation of a Reaganism whose time has faded. A new century is dawning. The old order is changing. We must look beyond the next election to the horizon of the next generation, and there is no one better matched to the challenge than Mike Dukakis. He saw the future coming in Massachusetts. He led the transition from a faltering 1950s economy to a modern economy at the cutting edge of change. Mike Dukakis is the man who did it for Massachusetts, and Mike Dukakis is the man who is going to do it for the United States of America. George Bush may want to lower the capital gains tax, But Mike Dukakis will repeal the corruption tax we are all paying in the form of defense cost overruns and a Pentagon bribery scandal that has bloated the budget by billions of dollars. So let's not raise taxes on average income families. Let's lower the boom on high-level corruption. The years ahead can be a bad time or the best of times. The problem today is not America's people, but America's leadership. Our people know the difference between right and wrong. We all see the faces pressed against the windows of our affluence, and we wonder now whether our children will be consigned to a lesser life in a lesser land. We cannot be satisfied to see American students rank 15th among the industrial nations in science and math. We must strengthen education, not attack it. We must abolish illiteracy, not abide it. And we must invest in star schools here on earth, not Star Wars in the heavens. And we must heed the message of Jesse Jackson. We must banish drugs from our classrooms, from our playgrounds, from the streets of our cities, and from everywhere in our nation. We must make America once again the best educated society in the world. We must see to it that in the 1990s, young Americans won't just go to school, they will learn in school. At the same time, we must respond to the human realities of a day as distant from the New Deal as that era was from the age of the horse and buggy. Today, when more than 50% of mothers work, including half of those with children under the age of 1, it is a national disgrace that we have failed to secure basic child care for working parents. No mother who wants to work or has to work should have to fear for the health or safety of her child when she is on the job. Nor shall we ever consent to the permanent division of our nation into 3 societies, one doing well, a second barely holding on, the third trapped decade after decade in hopelessness, anger, and violence. All this and more will be decided at the desk of the next president. A world transformed takes many different forms. There are dangers and other challenges, but there is one of which I finally speak, and which must be one of the first priorities of the next administration. All my public life, I have fought my heart out for the principle that the state of a family's health should never be determined by the size of a family's wealth. And I stand here this evening and tell you that at long last victory is within our grasp. The first critical step has already been taken this year in Massachusetts. Governor Dukakis passed comprehensive, cost-effective access to medical care for every citizen of our state. And next year in Washington, President Dukakis will wage and win the battle to secure decent health care for all the people of our nation. I will be standing there with him in the forefront of that battle because America should not be the only industrial nation on earth, except for South Africa, that ensures the health of its politicians, but not its people. In closing, let me pledge every resource of mind and spirit that I have to the success of our cause in 1988. You and I have stood together many times, but no time has been more important than this. The campaign that stretches before us now is a struggle for the soul and the future of America. For we are more than a political coalition, more than a collection of programs, more than the sum of our prospects and our strategies. Most of all, we are the trustees of a dream. 20 years ago, in 1968, we lost two of the most powerful voices of that dream. But they left us their vision, their values, and the hopes they awakened in the countless millions of people whose hearts they touched. We remember them now to remind ourselves that the American journey is unfinished, that we stand for change in order to march again towards enduring ideals, that we do not have to settle for things as they are. Martin Luther King Jr. told us something we need to hear anew. He said, "We are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now in the unfolding life and history. There is such a thing as being too late." And Dr. King also said, "We must work unceasingly to lift this nation to a higher destiny, to a new plateau of compassion." And in that time, there was another voice, only briefly heard, but whose words, too, have outlasted all the loss in years. Robert Kennedy said, "Each time a man stands up for an ideal, or acts to improve the lot of others, or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current that can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance." He was my brother, but he and Dr. King were also, in the deepest sense, brothers to us all. These two, these valiant two, lived for the same dream and were gone only months apart. And if they were here with us 2 decades later, I think I know what they would say. Now is the time. Some men see things as they are and say, "Why?" We dream things that never were and say, "Why not?" Now is the time. Ladies and gentlemen, we're for it. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see Massachusetts is proud of its public servants. We're for it. Thank you. Massachusetts is proud of its public servants, those who have served, those who have just spoken, and those we are about to elect president. Tonight, I ask that you pay tribute. As Senator Kennedy said, we know who we are and we know where we stand. There is a man among you tonight who never wavered when the call went out to respond with the traditional values of the Democratic Party. We see things clearer tonight because we stand on the shoulders of a giant. 50 years of public service,
He served as Speaker of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. He served 10 years as the Speaker of the House of Representatives. He is my Mr. Democrat. He is the Honorable Thomas P. Tip O'Neill of Massachusetts.
The Democratic platform this year reflects the goals and values of our party. The message is one of restoration, the restoration of competence, the restoration of hope. This document this year caters to a special interest group, the American people. In drafting the platform, we Democrats had our differences, but we worked in unity on a document of which we can all be proud. Let's learn more about this process and the Platform Committee's outstanding chairman, Michigan Governor Jim Blanchard.
How do you bring Democrats together to move in the same direction and write the party platform? You tap into the new political energy in the country. Democrats who are moving our states and communities forward to solve the problems of a changing America. Jim Blanchard, the governor of Michigan, is one of them. When he took over as governor 6 years ago, Michigan was in a crisis. It was no time for the old rhetoric. No time to argue more government, less government. Problems had to be solved fast.
Our state was mired in a depression, stuck in an economic quicksand that we did not create. Some people thought the situation looked hopeless.
Michigan had record unemployment, more than 17%. Hundreds of thousands of jobs lost. A state $1.7 billion in debt.
Things that we really consider are important.
He fought for a bold fiscal recovery program, and it worked. He balanced the budget, and he kept it in balance. The goal was jobs and more jobs.
Really?
Working with business and labor, using what he had learned in the fight to save Chrysler, he led Michigan to create more than 500,000 of them.
It's not only a lasting investment in our future, but it's jobs right now for our people.
Today, Michigan is called the comeback state, one of the states out on the leading edge of problem solving. In Arkansas, Governor Bill Clinton's education program, with tough new standards for both teachers and students, and with everybody accountable, it works. In North Dakota, Governor George Sinner got government together with the Bank of North Dakota. They became partners with farmers to hold off foreclosures. It worked. In Colorado, Governor Romer is preserving the environment of the Rocky Mountains and energizing the economy at the same time. It's a hard-nosed balancing act, and it works. What's their common thread? A new approach to problem solving with an eye on the balance sheet. And it's exactly this new approach that Jim Blanchard brought to the platform process.
Friends from Washington.
In the platform, in the campaign, and in the years ahead, Democrats everywhere will keep leading the way with ideas that work. The new Democratic platform is a good plan for a better America. Ladies and gentlemen, the man who pulled it all together, Governor James Blanchard.
Thank you very much. Fellow Michiganians, fellow Democrats, and fellow Americans, in 1988, America needs change. We face new challenges in a new world that demands new solutions. Global challenges that call for a fresh American idealism and a spirit of enterprise. And so tonight, the Democratic Party unites enduring values with new ideas to present a blueprint for a better America and a blueprint for building the American dream in the 1990s and the next century. Our platform, your platform, offers opportunity, growth, jobs, justice, competence, security, and an unbounded hope for a better future for all of our people. And our platform offers challenges to put aside the selfishness and scandal and stagnation of the past 8 years and to rekindle once again the values and spirit of our great American family, the values of justice, of sharing, of caring, and the can-do spirit of American optimism, hard work, and innovation. A spirit that can solve any problem, overcome any obstacle, and reach any star. When we set out together to build this platform, the skeptics said it couldn't be done. They said that neither party could say no to the special interests, the lobbyists, the money brokers. They said that neither party could write a people's platform that spoke of old-fashioned values, progressive principles, and a vision that binds together the American family. They said that neither party could produce a document that someone could read. Well, they must have been talking about the Republican Party. The Republican Party, you've heard of it. It's tired, it's run down, out of energy, out of ideas. In a word, it's bushed. Indeed, my fellow Democrats and fellow Americans, we challenge the Republican Party to reject the politics of the status quo and stand up to the special interests. We Democrats have done it. We've done it in just over 4,000 words, 1/10 the length of our 1984 platform, and the shortest platform since Franklin Roosevelt turned this country around in 1932. We Democrats offer competence and hope. Competence and hope for a stronger, surer, greater America. We offer the vision of opportunity and jobs of the next President of the United States, Governor Mike Dukakis. We offer the commitment to clean air and water and child care of Governor Bruce Babbitt. We offer the strong leadership, the leadership on health care of Senator Lloyd Bentsen. We offer the traditional values of our party as championed by Senator Paul Simon. We offer the demand for fair trade and human investment articulated by Congressman Dick Gephardt. We offer the reaffirmation of the American family expressed by Congresswoman Pat Schroeder. We offer the security of a strong national defense called for by Senator Al Gore. And yes, we offer the revival of hope, of dreams, of justice carried here to us all by the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Armed with the vision and principles of our presidential candidates and the innovation and competence of our governors and mayors, We Democrats believe in compassionate, pragmatic, activist government, good government, honest government, open government. We believe in a government that listens to its people and gets behind their dreams. We believe in a government that works. We believe in the possibilities of the American dream, the dream of opportunity for all, the dream of a good job at good wages, the dream of a good home in a good neighborhood with a good school, looking forward in good health to a good pension, an opportunity in a good and just world. That, my fellow Americans, is what we Democrats believe. Now let me tell you what we Democrats do not believe. We Democrats will not tell the American people that everything is peachy keen in this great country. We'll let George Bush do it. We Democrats will not tell the American people that peace and stability in Central America can be won by cutting deals with cocaine-dealing generals. Let George do it. We Democrats will not tell the American workers that 60 days' notice for a plant closing is bad for business. Let George do it. And we Democrats will not tell the American people that 3 million homeless in America are a myth. Let George do it. We Democrats will not tell the American people that peace in the Persian Gulf can be won by selling arms to the Ayatollah. Let George do it. And we Democrats will not tell the American people that the Equal Rights Amendment should not be in the Constitution. Let George do it. No, my fellow Americans, fellow Democrats, we will not tell the American people that tripling the national debt in 8 years has given our children a solid future. Let George do it. And we Democrats will not tell workers in my home state of Michigan that they need to go to Russia for job training. Let George do it. My fellow Democrats and Americans, we Democrats will not say that America's best days are past, because we believe in our future. We believe in the American dream. We Democrats believe that we have a great nation, and we can make it greater still, not by ignoring the challenges of our time, but by strong leadership prepared to build the future. Now, let's hear from some of our leaders like you and I, who believe that working together for America, the best is yet to come. It is now my honor to present to you, my fellow Democrats and fellow Americans, the dynamic Commissioner of Agriculture from the great state of Texas, the Honorable Jim Hightower.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I've got a long way to go and a short time to get there, so let's get on with it here. Thank you very much. There's an old country saying down in Texas that sums up our central economic need today. The country people say, the water won't ever clear up till you get the hogs out of the creek. My friends, that's our problem. The fat hogs have been turned loose in the creek, and they're fouling up the economic waters for you and for me. We've got to get the hogs out of the creek. For 8 hard years, Reagan and Bush have pushed down upon us a pernicious philosophy of greed, a philosophy that says, I got mine, you get yours. Never give a sucker an even break. I'm rich, you're not. Adios chump, that's what they're really saying to us, isn't it? Now along comes George Bush. In fact, George Herbert Walker Bush II, to be precise. Perpetually preppy. He's of the Kennebunkport Bushes, don't you know? He's a toothache of a man, telling us to stay the course, and he's threatening to lead this country from Tweedledum to Tweedledummer, and we cannot let that happen. George Bush would have America believe that the elixir of trickle-down economics has produced an unprecedented prosperity in America. A boom, he squeals, a boom. Before you swallow that whole, however, ask yourself this question: a boom for whom? 80% of the American people, your family and mine, have lost income as a result of the economic policies that George Bush wants to continue. Check your own purse. Look into your own savings account. Balance your own income with the outgo, and you're going to find that the Reagan-Bush program has brought a lot more bust in this economy than it has boom. Meanwhile, the wealthiest among us, the richest 1% of Americans, that's George Bush and his button-down buddies, they've enjoyed a 50% increase in their incomes. That amounts to an average bonus of $129,000 a year for each and every member of that upper crust. They're the ones who have been fattened by the Reagan-Bush tax cut giveaways, the Pentagon spendorama, and the miserly credit policies of this administration. But even as we're gathered in this hall, you know what's going on? George Bush and his buddies, they're out at the yacht club right now. They're sitting about in their Gucci's and their Poochies. They're sipping a delightfully fruity and frisky white wine. And they're saying, play it again, George, play it again. These guys are not merely well off, they are the powerfully rich, the ostentatiously rich. Who are they? Their average income is $275,000 a year. Their average net worth is nearly $5 million. Honk if that's you. That's not America. Of course not. Most Americans don't get to spend any time down at the yacht club sipping wine. In today's topsy-turvy economy of Reaganomics, we're lucky if we can afford to stop off down to 7-Eleven to pick up a tall bud and a Slim Jim. We're wondering what planet George Bush is on when he talks about this economic prosperity. But then, of course, George Bush has always been in another world. He was born there, an upper-class world in which wealth is given to you at birth. George Bush is a man who was born on third base and thinks that he's hit a triple. Some people say now, Hightower, we shouldn't be too hard on George. After all, he's doing his best, and that's what's so sad, isn't it? Friends, we've got work to do in the remaining months before November 8th. We've got to throw the snooty rascals out of the White House and put a people's president in there for a change. The central issue in this election is exactly the same as it was back in 1932, after Coolidge and Hoover had allowed the economic elite of their days to plunder the economy and plunge America into depression. The issue is this: are we going to continue to coddle the greedy few, or are we going to reinvest in the genius of the many? Strip away all the rhetoric about liberals and conservatives. Ignore the Madison Avenue packaging, and here's what you'll find. Politics is and always has been a struggle between the wealthy few who seek to secure their own privileges and the rest of us who constantly must strive to improve our meager lot. The true political spectrum in this country is not left and right. It is not liberal or conservative. It is top down. George Bush is always going to walk with the powers that be and seek to preserve the inequity of the status quo. We Democrats, in 1988, we're going to reach out to the family farmers, small business people, the working families, the powers that ought to be, the powers that can be, if given a chance to rebuild this country from the ground up and restore economic fairness in the process. In this election, we Democrats are offering not only the chance to change presidents, but the chance to change directions, and that's long overdue. Let George Bush side with the Rockefellers. We're going to stick with the little fellers in this country. We've got to rebuild our country from the rubble of Reaganomics. And this time, instead of putting the tools of growth in the hands of the wealthy, we're going to put them directly in the hands of the millions of ordinary Americans out there, the people who build, who sweat, who invent, who plow, who teach, and do the other productive tasks that generate true economic prosperity for all the people in this country. For an example, what do workers want? What they want is simply this. They want a chance to rebuild America. In 1980, Ronald Reagan said, I'm going to get American industry moving again, and he did, didn't it? It moved to Taiwan, it moved to Korea, it moved to South America, it moved everywhere but here in this country. Let's get it moving here at home again. The genius of the American workforce is not in its cheapness. Rather, it's in its skills. It's in its creativity. It's in its pride. Let's respect work and reward workers. Good wages, affordable daycare, secure pensions, worker ownership. Let's invest in America's workers. And the question is asked, what do America farmers want? What do small business, minority firms, wildcatters, inventors, entrepreneurs, what do they want? They want the same thing. They want the chance to rebuild America. We Democrats believe in free enterprise, but free is not an adjective, it's a verb. You've got to free up the enterprise of all the people everywhere. Encourage new business, not protect monopolies. I work with those dirt farmers out there. Some 650,000 of them have lost their farms as a result of the price-busting, surplus-creating, tax-eating farm programs of this administration. George Bush's idea of a good farm program is hee-haw, from what I've seen. That's not good enough for farmers. We Democrats offer a fair market price, sensible supply management, access to affordable credit, development of new crops, new markets. Let's invest in the enterprise of our people. Reagan and Bush, you know, they say, well, the big boys are going to do it for you. But of course, the big boys always do it to us, don't they? Like my preacher friend Jesse Jackson told some farmers up in Iowa, we might not have all come over on the same boat, but we're in the same boat now. And that's the truth, isn't it? We know the truth of that. Let's use this election year to take America back from the conglomerate chieftains and the corporate raiders, back from the international speculators and the profiteers. We're tired of Mr. Bush's trickle-down economics. We want some percolate-up economics, up from the grassroots, bringing all the people up with us. Let's build an economy that reflects basic values of fairness, social justice, equal opportunity for the people. What is our economic message to the American people in this year? We're asking your help to build a future that respects working men and women, that cherishes children, and that rewards initiative. To reach this future, we'll put the strength and tools of government behind a grassroots program of expanding opportunity for everyone. If workaday Americans are given a fair chance, they will create a diverse and a healthy economy in which everybody prospers. We will fight for your right to have that chance. Let me leave you with one final thought here tonight. From here in Atlanta, we Democrats really are issuing the same call that Franklin Delano Roosevelt issued in 1932 when he accepted our party's nomination. He said then, just as we say tonight, this is more than a political campaign. It is a call to arms. Give us your help. Not just to win votes, but to win in this crusade to restore America to its own people. That is our challenge as Democrats this year. That is our opportunity as Americans. We can do it. Si se puede. We can do it together. Thank you very much. Thank you. You thought you were rid of me, but you are not. I get a double honor tonight, not only to address this great convention, but also to introduce your next speaker and my friend, a woman from the state of Maryland who believes as I do in the little people of this country, because we are little people to begin with. We have a saying down in Texas that say the rooster crows, but the hen delivers the goods. I wanted to introduce you to one of the great women in America, Senator Barbara Mikulski from the state of Maryland.
Fellow Democrats and sister Democrats, my name is Barbara Mikulski, and I come from Baltimore, Maryland. I love the Orioles, Chesapeake Bay steamed crabs, and I love my family. I grew up in a large family and still live in the old neighborhood. I know my neighbors. I've got 2 sisters and wonderful brother-in-laws, and I'm Aunt Barb to 6 nieces and nephews. So I know a lot about the American family. I know that the American dream begins with the American family. It's nurtured around the kitchen table, at the family barbecue, Thanksgiving dinner and Sunday church. It grows on the family farm and thrives at the neighborhood block party. And it builds new strength at the suburban PTA meeting. Every one of us has an aunt or an uncle who's told us the rules of the game. There are just no shortcuts to the American dream. You get ahead by hard work and perseverance and hope in America. Families are holding themselves together as they always have. Every family's got its worries: paying the mortgage, school costs, an aging parent who needs help. Some families shoulder more than seems possible: drug addiction, family violence, broken homes. But family life should be more than just coping or making ends meet, more than just pinching pennies and dipping into the nest egg. If there's anything that concerns the American family today, it's this: our government hasn't caught up with the new facts of American family life. Families have changed, so why can't Washington? New facts: moms working. Nearly 65% of all mothers are working. Part-time, full-time, all of the time. Keeping the family together, making ends meet, making America more prosperous. Working mothers need affordable daycare and the pay they deserve. Too often, they can't get either. Over 10 million children under 6 have working mothers, yet child care centers accommodate barely a third of the need. If we want to keep our economy humming, let's get mothers some help with the kids. Affordable daycare, family leave. It's just not too much to ask. And no working woman should take home a paycheck that is less than she deserves. American families will be stronger when working women get changes in their checkbooks and in their law books. A new fact: children in poverty, more of them now than ever before. 13 million, up 26% between 78 and 1986. They live at the edge, all too often with only a single parent. For their mothers, life is a daily struggle for security and dignity. Don't they deserve the help of their government? You bet they do. No dad should have to live with the knowledge that his children face a lifetime of bad schools, drug abuse, and menial jobs. No child should live a life without hope. America is only as rich as its poorest family, as strong as its weakest child, as prepared as its weakest teenager. New fact: drug abuse is ruining our children. School playgrounds have become drug markets. School teachers, the police. Yet education is still the shortest distance between 2 points in our country, between getting ahead and falling behind. We can make no compromise with our children's education. We can make no compromise on drug abuse. Education is where we take that first step towards the future. Every parent knows that. That's why they work so hard, to give their kids a better chance. And let's face facts. You don't get from here to there, from today's children to tomorrow's leaders, by just talking hot air. You start where the future begins, with our children. It's time to recognize that smart students are just as important as smart weapons. If we want America to stay ahead, to be number one, let's invest in hometown America. Preschool education for children at risk. Teachers who can teach and more of them. Higher standards for both teachers and kids. A commitment to equal access. And a determination to give financial aid to anyone who can make the grade in college. America's future depends, as always, on the strength of the American family. The old values, hard work, pulling together, shared sacrifice, they still endure. In the end, it's not a political party or a government that extends the reach of a child. It is the American working family. When American families give their best, when they work hard, raise their kids properly, and pay their taxes, they deserve a president who knows and respects that effort. They want a partnership between the White House and every house in America. A president can't replace what every mother and father gives their children: good habits, moral character, self-worth, a love of country, and a sense of optimism about the future. But a president who leads with competence and purpose, with prudence and integrity, can make a difference. Mike Dukakis will be that president. Mike Dukakis, husband, father, family man, a leader who understands the legacy of hard work and sacrifice, the promise of America. His goals are clear: good schools, decent health care when you need it, not only when you can afford it, a chance to buy a home, a future where tomorrow is not a worry, but a promise. An America where families are strong and prosperous. An America where every family shares in the American dream. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. And now I have the wonderful opportunity to introduce a colleague in the House of Representatives, a wonderful man from the state of Pennsylvania, who started as a young man and moved into the preacher's pulpit. And now he's moved into the most important committee in the House of Representatives. He chairs the Budget Committee. In a few minutes, I'm going to introduce to you Congressman Bill Gray of Pennsylvania. Bill Gray of Pennsylvania, the man who shows that we can meet our fiscal responsibility and not turn our backs on our social responsibility, is what I give a great pleasure to introduce to you my friend and an outstanding leader, a rising star in our party, Congressman Bill Gray of Pennsylvania.
Good evening, fellow Democrats and my fellow Americans. This year, the American people face a critical choice. Whom do we trust to spend our money wisely, to restore balance to our economy, and to invest in our future? Who will have the strength to manage and the compassion to cope with the economic uncertainties that confront our families, our elderly, our underprivileged, and our children? To reverse the economic violence of the past 8 years, we need an expansive and vibrant economy, one whose enhanced growth will help all Americans improve their working and living conditions and expand their dreams. The choices for every American in the next 4 years are vital to every individual and to the nation as a whole. Will I have a good job at a decent wage? Can I afford to send my children to college? Can my parents receive quality health care without falling into bankruptcy? Can I afford housing? Can we rebuild our roads, upgrade our schools, and compete in international markets? Can we provide help for the homeless and opportunities for the poor? And can our country be safe and secure in a troubled world? These are the questions for the leaders we seek. The answers we Democrats offer are found in our platform, spelling out a plan to create balanced economic growth to benefit all regions and all our people, providing tough management to get the most for our money, and imposing the self-discipline to spend within our means. We have seen the kind of answers the Reagan-Bush team have to offer. Their 8-year legacy has allowed our economy to be swept downhill into a swirling sea of debt. Our so-called conservative Republicans have transformed America in 8 years from the world's largest creditor nation to the world's largest debtor nation, more than doubled the national debt from less than $1 trillion to more than $2.6 trillion, developed a risky dependence on foreign capital, and increased foreign ownership of our land and natural resources, brought us to interest payments on the national debt of $150 billion, which is more than our government spent on general science, space and technology, energy, agriculture, commerce, housing credit, transportation, community and regional development, education, training, employment, social services, and law enforcement in the year of 1986. They've gone on a credit card spending spree of buy now and pay later that will take generations to repay. Instead of waste not, want not, the Reagan-Bush motto has been to waste now and want more. What do we have to show for the past 8 years? Are our roads smoother? Our air cleaner? Our troops safer? Our children better educated? Or our elderly better cared for? No, we know the answer, but what we've seen are policies that called for a 28% reduction in education spending for the neediest students, massive reductions in our commitment to safe and decent housing for all Americans, a great deal of rhetoric about fighting drugs, but underfunding the programs to enforce the Say No campaign while increasing handouts to dictators who peddle drugs, a rejection of trade policies that would make us more competitive, and an unwillingness to even give workers in America a 90-minute notice of a layoff while giving drug-dealing dictators 90 days notice. We Americans can no longer afford to live from week to week on borrowed money and borrowed time. It's time for America once again to take charge of its economic future. It's time for a new balance in our policy on revenue and spending, to stop taking from the needy and giving to the greedy. It's time to change direction, to change those who are entrusted to balance the national checkbook. We come together tonight to present our party's platform, a statement of fundamental principles, our goals for the future, a strong commitment to fiscal responsibility and budgetary discipline, a willingness to invest in our future with a focus on children, housing, health care, education, and the environment, a spirit of compassion and community rather than privilege and power, a belief that prudent management can extend our resources and improve our national security, a knowledge that high standards and high goals are the first steps to accomplish both great and small, and a demand for economic opportunity and social justice regardless of background or ethnic origin. We Democrats know that we must have a balance between our needs and our revenues, and if we cannot afford to pay for what we wish, then we cannot have it. We Democrats know that George Bush, with his flexible freeze or fiscal folly, will only give us more of the same policies of debt accumulation while claiming that taxes are the issue for 1988. George Bush called that voodoo economics in 1980. And my brothers and sisters, it's still voodoo economics in 1988. This year, we Democrats are saying veto the voodoo. This administration has raised $454 billion in taxes on the American taxpayers, never balanced a budget, and more than double the national debt. Then they say government is the problem. Well, who led the government? Who signed the legislation? And who submitted the budgets? To restore economic justice for all Americans, we must ensure steady, balanced economic growth, tight budgetary discipline, wise investment in human resources, strong management of spending, and leadership that will not tolerate corruption. We have seen what common sense approach can achieve for state economies such as Massachusetts, and the Reverend Jesse Jackson has eloquently put it, we will either pay at the front side of life with schools and jobs, or we will pay at the back side of life with prisons and welfare. You don't need a PhD in economics to know that the backside is always more expensive. For the past 4 years, as the chairman of the House Budget Committee, I've had the job of saying no to the Reagan-Bush deficits, no to their misplaced priorities, and no to their fiscal sleight of hand. This year, that is the responsibility of all of us. When the Republicans ask you, my fellow Americans, to fall for that same old con game, just say no. Fellow Americans, we can do it. United, we can solve our problems and ensure economic growth for the long term and for our children. We must do it. Our children need it, and our future demands it. Thank you very, very much. Let me introduce to you a distinguished member of the United States Senate. He was first elected in 1972, re-elected by large majorities. He has served on the Armed Services Committee since coming to the United States Senate. He became its chairman in 1987. May I bring to you a distinguished spokesperson on national defense and foreign policy, the distinguished senator from the great state of Georgia, Sam Nunn.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Fellow Democrats, fellow Americans, for millions of people around the world, the opportunity we have in Atlanta this week to meet freely and openly to choose our nation's leaders remains a distant dream. To those who can only dream of freedom, to those who rely on our strength and our purpose to keep the peace, protect democracy, and promote human rights, and most of all, our children, America has an enduring obligation. This 1988 platform sends a clear message to the American people. The Democratic Party can be trusted to safeguard our nation's security. This platform calls for clarity and common sense in our security strategy, tough-minded management of the Pentagon, reducing the risk of war, sharing the burden of defense, and a foreign policy grounded in respect for our Constitution, our allies, and our basic values. I am frequently asked two questions. First, has our nation's military capability grown in the last few years? The answer is yes. On the plus side, we are very proud of the talented, dedicated men and women in uniform today. Our weapons are more modern. The INF Treaty has been ratified. And to his credit, Secretary of Defense Carlucci is trying hard to convert the management nightmare he inherited from Cap Weinberger into a bad dream. The second question I'm asked is, have we gotten our money's worth for the number of dollars we've spent in defense? That answer is clearly no. My friends, Mike Dukakis knows that it takes more than a cash register to run an efficient and an effective Pentagon. Lloyd Bentsen knows that it takes more than an adding machine to formulate a sound strategy and a clear set of priorities for this nation. The American people know that this administration has produced too many procurement scandals and too few effective weapons. In executing our nation's defense and foreign policy, this Republican administration too often has issued a confused command: ready, fire, aim. Fellow Democrats, this nation needs leaders who will think before acting and who will aim before firing. With skill management and with steady funding, we must get more military capability for every dollar we spend by improving existing weapons with new technology, by buying weapons at efficient production rates, and by closing unneeded military bases at home and abroad. In 1981, the Reagan-Bush administration embarked on an unprecedented peacetime increase in military spending, and they did it without persuading our allies to take a parallel course. In 1989, we must call for a new relationship with our allies to achieve a more equitable sharing of defense tasks and to improve our common defense through specialization. We should emphasize contributions that no ally can duplicate: a credible nuclear deterrent, a Navy capable of controlling the seas, and conventional forces that can respond quickly and flexibly to challenges around the world. Our NATO allies, in turn, must strengthen their ground forces in Western Europe. And I believe Mike Dukakis is exactly right when he says that a strong conventional defense is the best guarantee against war and against the early first use of nuclear weapons should war come. God forbid that. This platform recognizes that America's power rests not on military might alone, but on a vibrant economy, a solvent government, and educated people, and above all, on the democratic principles that we exemplify to the world. In November, we Americans must decide whether we will change leadership or whether we will stay the course with George Herbert Walker Bush. I ask you, will we stay the course with those who toasted Ferdinand Marcos as a friend of democracy? Will we stay the course with those who winked at apartheid in South Africa? Will we stay the course with those who sent brave Americans on Mission Impossible in Lebanon? Will we stay the course with those who, in their zeal to promote democracy in Central America, were willing to shred it here at home? We have an alternative. We can change captains and we can chart a new course. We Democrats pledge a foreign policy. We Democrats pledge a foreign policy based on reflection, not on reflex. A policy conducted in the plain sight of the American people, not hidden away in the White House basement. A policy that recognizes that the United States cannot police the world, but neither can we retreat from it. Toward the Soviet Union and its new leadership, our policy must combine an open mind, but a watchful eye. When a hand of peace and friendship is extended, we will shake that hand, but we will also count our fingers. The acid test of Soviet intentions is not words, but deeds. Will they remove their offensive threat in Europe? Will they fulfill their commitment to basic human rights? Will they fully comply with existing arms control agreements? And will they cooperate in diffusing conflicts throughout the world? The next 4 years are fraught with unprecedented opportunities for peace, but also with continued danger of war. A new Democratic administration must work harder with our allies and with the world community to stop the conflicts in Angola, Cambodia, Ethiopia, and the Middle East, to strengthen our special relationship with Israel, and to revive the spirit of Camp David, to see that all sides abide by their commitments under the Arias peace plan in Central America, and to encourage our most prosperous allies, especially the Japanese, to divert a portion of their enormous savings to third world debt relief and to fighting poverty and despair throughout the world. In the final analysis, Democrats understand that the most important competition in the world today is not military competition, but is moral competition. A contest between political and economic philosophies that embody very different values. My friends and fellow delegates, under the strong and skillful leadership of Mike Dukakis and Lloyd Bentsen, this is a contest that we will win. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lena Guerrero.
Buenas noches. When I grow up, I want to be just like Ann Richards, only darker. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce a man whose public service career exemplifies our values, Congressman Bob Matsui from California. He spent his career in the early time of his life in detention camps for Japanese Americans, but today he's fighting in the Congress for all of us. His service has many dimensions. He's a great leader, but he is dedicated to a party, as we all are, of new ideas. Ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Bob Matsui.
Thank you. California. Thank you. You heard from a number of great Americans this evening talking about our great Democratic platform. This platform is dedicated to our children. I have a son 16 years old, and you have children and grandchildren. This is a document of the future of America, and it gives me a great deal of pleasure to move the adoption of the Democratic platform of 1988 as amended. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. You have heard the motion. You have voted for the substitute to the platform. The motion now is, will we adopt the platform of the Democratic Party for 1988 as amended?